In this video, I'm going to review Microsoft Space Simulator and kind of compare it to Kerbal Space Program. And we're going to look at a few things: system requirements, controls, physics, exploration, explosions, and finally, whether or not it's fun. I want to first look at a couple reviews of Space Simulator from this time period. This first one is called Bytes, and it's a digital magazine you could run from DOS. This is cool because this was before the World Wide Web really began to become popular. So let's just go ahead and look at that really quick. Oh, I think it's all the way in the bottom here. There we go, Space Simulator 1.0. So the first thing we're going to compare between Kerbal Space Program and this game is the system requirements. It only required a 386 running at 25 megahertz with 2 megabytes of RAM. That is a very low requirement, even when this game was released, I think. You needed a hard drive with 15 megs of free space, and while that doesn't seem like a lot today, back then when I originally installed this game, we only had a 200 megabyte hard drive in our 46 to store this on. Looking really quick at Kerbal Space Program, we see the system requirements are hundreds or even thousands of times more demanding than a game from 20 plus years ago. Oh wow, so they actually reviewed it on a 386. That's kind of crazy. But maybe that's all they had back then. I'm not going to read all this, but if you want to download this magazine, I'll put a link in the description. So as you can see, the magazine also included some screenshots that were captured from within the game. I mean, the graphics aren't that fantastic, but it's what we had back then. Another downside of this game is a lot of the places you can explore are just 2D sprites rendered into the background. So it's a little weird looking and not very seamless. I also found this review in Electronic Entertainment from 1994. As you can see, this game came out around the same time as Doom 2 was being released. The most surprising thing to me is the price, $64.95. Ouch. So adjusted for inflation, that is $159 in 2020. You definitely would have been better off with Doom 2 for sure. I've extracted everything into this A drive, so I have all the disk images just in one place. Let's try running setup.exe now. Okay, so destination C games space sim, and now it's going to extract from disk 1. So I just sped up this part here because DOSBox was taking a little bit longer than I wanted it to. I don't have a registration card, sorry. Okay, so now we can set up the resolution. 800 by 600 should be good. We'll just say VESA compatible. I don't have a joystick configured right now, so we'll just skip that. We'll do complex imagery, and let's start off with music. I don't think the sound effects are that interesting. Okay, so let's see if we can just launch it at this point. Okay, so let's look at our controls here. No, we want keyboard guide. Oof, rotation, left arrow, right arrow, up, down. Oh, and then there's roll. Slash and okay, so we're gonna rotate until we're pointing at this space station. Okay, so we're roughly, let's kind of move over here a little. Okay, so we're roughly pointing at the space station. Now we need to accelerate. And we'll probably use fine controls because it looks like we're already pretty close to the station. So fine thrusters, shift plus and shift minus. So we need to set our reference to the space station. Space station. Is it ring station 1? Okay. So we're going to set our reference to that so we can figure out how far away we are from that object. So I'm going to speed up this part at about 20x the actual gameplay speed. It just takes so long to safely maneuver to the space station because if you do it at a high velocity, it's like way too easy to overshoot your target. So I'm just kind of playing it safe here. I'll say the game is pretty forgiving about how close you actually have to be to the docking port, and it will just kind of snap you into place once you get close enough to it. Oh, I think we did it. I think we've officially docked. Wow, that was painful. um, let's see if we can look at our view on the chase camera. Okay, nice, nice. Doesn't really let me... There we are. Docked to this ring space station. Looking at Kerbal Space Program, we see it has an even more complex set of controls, but they're also fully customizable as well, so that's something that Space Simulator doesn't have. So overall, I would say the controls in Space Simulator are kind of meh. So another thing I wanted to look at in this game, whether or not relativity plays an effect, that is, as you approach the speed of light, like, does it eventually limit you to that speed? And like, can you continue to accelerate? Does it affect your mass? I don't think there is really a mass reading in this game, but we'll see as we try to approach this dumbbell nebula here what happens. Oh, so this is interesting. Our acceleration is already, and so this is unrealistic, right? Like we couldn't have been accelerating at 4Gs for this many days because you would have killed the occupants of the vehicle at some point. Um, I mean, more realistically, you could actually, if you had enough fuel to do this, you would just maintain 1G of thrust. That way, you basically have artificial gravity working for you. But we're in a hurry to get to this nebula, so let's just ramp it up a little bit. So we should just start slowing down, or our acceleration rate should just be going down exponentially at some point. Yeah, because we only have like 8,000 kilometers per second before we're at the speed of light, which is impossible. Yeah, at this point, trying to go any faster is just going to be a waste of fuel. Okay, so we are about 99.9999% the speed of light now. You cannot go any faster than this. So they actually do simulate the physics correctly here in that you cannot go faster than the speed of light. So I try my best to create a probe in Kerbal Space Program that can get near the speed of light, but the best I could do is about 68 kilometers per second, which is not that close to the speed of light. So I would say overall I'm kind of impressed with Microsoft Space Simulator's use of physics, but Kerbal Space Program overall, with how it handles planetary orbit and how your vehicle interacts with its environment, is much more realistic physics-wise. So I will say there is a variety of places you can visit, which I'll kind of show here. And these are just all pre-programmed locations you can kind of warp to if you don't want to be bothered to actually plan a mission to fly to these places. But again, it is kind of limiting. There's only a small list of locations that you can actually get to. And a lot of these are kind of disappointing in that they're just like flat sprites of like a galaxy. So now we have here an astronaut that's on the horizon of a black hole, I guess. It's kind of strange, I mean, overall. So this is one of the few terrains in the game you could actually visit, and this is on Mars, where it actually had like these different elevation changes you could fly through with a spacecraft, which are kind of interesting. But again, it's just one very specific location on Mars. And again, here's another flyby of this galaxy, which is kind of cool. It's beautiful. So overall, I would say exploration in Microsoft Space Simulator is kind of boring, but I always found it was pretty fun just going around the different, even just the different planets and asteroids in Kerbal Space Program. Being limited to that solar system really isn't a downside. So the next thing we're going to look at is what explosions look like in this game. This would be very bad. Oh. Okay. So there's no explosion, it just kind of fades to black. So we do a similar lunar lander scenario in Kerbal Space Program to get a much different result. And of course things even explode. So overall I think obviously Kerbal Space Program does a much better job in this area. So the last thing we were looking at here is a side-by-side comparison of lunar landing scenarios. Both games have these built-in scenarios that can be used to train you in how to play the game properly. I believe Kerbal Space Program gives you a little bit more guidance in what to do step by step and explains a lot of the complexities of the maneuver node control system to deorbit your spacecraft, whereas Space Simulator just kind of simplifies the experience quite a bit and puts you directly in the descent stage. Of course, in both games you have to be very careful about controlling your downward velocity so as to not crash. Space Simulator, though, actually gives you a score depending on how close you are to the target you're aiming for and how gently your landing was, which is arguably a nice feature. Whereas Kerbal Space Program is, of course, more of a sandbox game. And so as we prepare two moon landings side by side here, let's talk about which game overall is more fun. So it's pretty obvious that Kerbal Space Program is the more engaging game, just given how far compute and graphics technology has advanced in this time period. Still, it's always fun to look back at how things have changed in 20 years in regards to space-based simulation games. It's always enjoyable to play an old game from my childhood that I haven't played in that many years as well. While the game really wasn't that fun, even for me back then as a kid, it still helped me appreciate a lot of the math and science involved in space exploration. Even if you didn't really understand the flight mechanics, it was still possible to do a lot of the exploration within the game just by warping to the various locations that they have pre-configured. So at the end of this video, I'll just leave you with a few more videos, examples of some of the places you can explore within the game. So that's my quick comparison between Microsoft Space Simulator and Kerbal Space Program. I feel like I spent way too much time putting this together, and sorry about the audio quality in some parts of this, as I still don't really have a great microphone. If you have any feedback, please leave a comment below and enjoy these scenes from the game.